All right, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Ainsworth, and we're going to get into your homework here on section 9.4 in our class at pre-calculus here. We're going to cover the law of cosines. We're probably going to be using the law of sines and also the area formula for non-right triangles. So get your calculators ready. You could use any scientific calculator you like. I'm going to be using Desmos right here and instead of the TI-84, because not everybody has a TI-84 at home, but everybody has access to Desmo Scientific and also Desmo Graphing. So whatever you want to use, be my guest. That's it's all good, but it's trig related and calculator dependent. So get your calculators ready. And remember, this is a video, so as I go, if you want to pause, play, and rewind, use it to your advantage. All right, because it is a video. All right, let's get started here. Now we have a side angle and a side case. This is a classic case of when you use the law of cosines right here. It's a side angle side situation where you have a side, two sides, two adjacent sides, and an included angle between these two adjacent sides. And here we want to find this side AC, which is opposite of this angle. And like I said, that's a classic case of when you use the law of sines. So right now I'm just going to use X is our unknown right here. It's going to represent AC, so X is equal to AC right here. That's our goal. All right, we want to be able to find the unknown side, it's called AC, side AC, but I'm just going to label it X just for simplicity's sake. So we're going to start off with the side opposite of the angle, and the law of cosines goes like this right here. We're going to be taking X squared here, and it's going to be equal to 11.9 squared plus 7.8 squared minus 2 times those two sides, 11.9 and 7.8, times the cosine, because it's a lot of cosines, right, of the included angle, which is 78.1 degrees. So if you're using TI-84s, which is fine, you want to set it in degree mode. Okay, keep that in mind. So a little note right here. All right, set calculators. All right, to degree mode. Even on the Desmos calculator, you have to do that. So right up here, let me just go to Desmos real quick. You can switch it to degrees and radians. Like right now it's in radian mode, and you switch it to degree mode. On the T84, do the same thing, but you got to hit the mode button. Okay, so now what we want to do is take a look at this right here. We want to evaluate this entire thing on the calculator, and then whatever we get, we're going to square root it because this is x squared. So let me see if I can decrease the size of the window here so I can see my work. Okay. Ooh, this is kind of nice. Let's see if this is going to work for me here. Yeah, this might work. I might be able to use Desmos right here. Keep the window small so I can see it. Okay, so 11.9. So 11.9. You got to input it correctly here. Squared, right? Plus 7.8 squared minus 2 times those two sides. So minus 2 times the 11.9 times the 7.8 times the cosine of the included angle, so 78.1 degrees. And notice the calculator set in degrees. And I get 164.17052. So I'm going to write that down here. So x, oops, don't want to be going in red here yet. So x squared is equal to, what was that here? 164.170. 164.170. Now you want to take many of the digits here, so I'm going to write it down to 9 or 10 significant figures here so you can get some accuracy. So 255. Okay. Now the T84, what you do is you just recall the answer. I haven't figured out how to do it on Desmos yet, but we want to square root both sides. And again, you want to take, there's 3, 6, and there's 9 significant digits right here. So you want to take a lot of digits for accuracy. So you get x is equal to whatever the square root of this is. All right, and so we want to do that. And so let's take the square root of 164. If you're on the T84, just recall your answer and square root it, and it's because you can do that on the T84. Here you just input at least 9 digits and see what answer we get. All right. So it just takes longer if you have to. Whoops. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. So we get about 12, 12.8. Now the directions say round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to round this to 12.8. So 12.8. All right, centimeters in this case. All right. The directions say round to the nearest tenth. All right, nearest tenth. All right. So there's your first one right there. That's a classic case of how to use the law of cosines, where you have the side angle side condition, where you have two sides and an included angle, which means the angle between them is included, and you're trying to find the opposite side of the angle. All right, classic case of the law of cosines. Same thing here. We want to find AC, and it's opposite of the given angle right here. So here, let's set it up. So x squared, you always start off with the side opposite of the angle. Is equal to 23 squared plus 27 squared minus 2 times the product of the two sides, 23 and 27, times the cosine of the included angle, 108 degrees. And then you square root this whole thing. Okay, so x is equal to the square root of this, so whatever this is. So let's figure it out. Okay, so let's type it in. So 23 squared. One of the hardest parts of the lesson is just putting in these long expressions here, because if you don't type it in correctly, obviously you're not going to get the right output. So minus 2 times 23 times 27. All right. Oops, see, I just missed a button. And so once again, if you don't get the right answer, you better check your work here to make sure you put the darn thing in correctly. And then you want to multiply by the cosine of 108 degrees. And notice it's 1,060. Okay, 1641 point something here. So 779. Okay, 799. What is that? So, okay, and then you square root. Okay, boom, right there and right there. And so x is going to be equal to the square root of that. All right, so let's go ahead and type that in. So take the square root. Oops, don't want to do that. You want to take the square root of the answer, so 1641.799.107. And again, on the T84, learn how to recall your answer. So, so you can do it easily. So notice that I get about 40.5. Okay, so 40.5, in this case, they're all in kilometers. Okay. Now, since some of you guys in pre-calculus have the T84, let me show you that. The recall feature, because it is kind of nice. In fact, it's easier to use the T84 on this lesson than I think than the whoa than the Desmos calculator. But not everybody has a T84 at home. So, but here we go. Watch this. Okay, so when you enter this in, so you take 23. Oops. 23 and you square it, so there's a square button right here. All right, and then you got to add 27 squared. Watch what I do here. You're going to square that too. God, the buttons are so small. It's tough when you get my age. All right, so you just type this in. All right, times the cosine of the included angle, which is 108. Now I haven't checked if this is in degree mode, so let me check. Oh, it's in radian mode, so I got to switch this. See? Always pays to check your calculator. Go second mode to quit out. And now if you hit the enter button, you get the same answers we did before. Now watch this. You got to square root this. So you go second x squared, which is the root, and then you go second answer. Answer is in blue. Notice that it says ANS for answer right there, and then you just hit the enter button, and notice we get the same result as before. So I think using the T84 is easier. So if you have it, use it. If you don't, use Desmos, okay, and just type the answers in. excuse me, type the numbers in. Okay, so let's continue here. So the law of cosines. Okay, now in this case, what do we have? We want to find angle C. Now, angle C is opposite of 28, and we don't know the side opposite of angle B, and we don't know the angle opposite of 21. All right, so it's kind of hard to use the law of sines to find the angle C because we can't. We don't know angle C, and we don't know angle A, and we don't have the side opposite of angle B. So we're going to have to find the side of opposite of angle B because that is the included angle. So even though we're trying to find angle C, we're going to have to find this side first, and then once we know the side, we can switch the law of sines. Okay, so step one here. Oops, step. All right, step one. All right, use law of cosines. All right, step two. All right, switch to law of sines. Let's get in it. So, okay, so I'm going to find x first. So x squared is equal to, all right, 28 squared plus 21 squared minus 2 times the product of the two sides, all right, times the cosine of the included angle, which is 133 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to use the TI-84. You guys use whatever technology you want. So I'm going to take 28 squared. Oops. Okay. 20. Like I said, you got to input the right numbers, right? So plus 21 squared. All right, minus 2 times the product of the two, which is 28 and 21. All right, times the cosine of the included angle, which is in this case 133 degrees. Check your work right here. So you got to make sure you put the right numbers in. Minus sign right there, 2 times 28 times 21. Looks pretty good to me. Hit the enter button. All right, now I got to square root it. So I'm going to take the square root. Notice I go second x squared, which is the square root. I'm going to recall the answer. Okay, and there we go. And then hit the enter button. And I get, holy cow, I get 45.0225. So after you square root here and here, all of this right here, you're going to get x is equal to, what was that answer again? 45.0225. So 45.0225, etc. You want to use a lot of the digits. I'm just going to check that because if you don't, your accuracy is going to be off. So take a lot of digits. And now I know what this side is. So if I'm trying to find angle C, here it goes. This is step two. We're going to use law of sines. So I'm going to take the sine of the angle, C, 2 is opposite side 28. And then I'm going to take the sine of 133 degrees, 2 is opposite side, which happens to be what we just found, which is 45.0225507. And then you cross multiply and go for it. So here's step one, and here's step two, law of sines. So let's go ahead and cross multiply. Okay, so we have this answer here, so 45.0225507 times the sine of angle C is equal to 28 times the sine of 133 degrees. Okay, and then I get divided by this number here. It's easier on the calculator, trust me. Oops. And notice that I get the sine of angle C is equal to this. And then you got to take the inverse sign to figure out whatever the angle is. So let's do this part here first. So watch this. So I'm going to take 28 times the sine of 133 degrees. Got to close it off, close the angle off of there. All right, I got to divide it by the previous result, so divide it by the answer. So recall the answer back, and you'll get this. Now, I'm going to write that down. So 0.4548. So 0.4548, 3659. So 3659. Whoops, my pen is not. What was that? 365947. 5947. Okay, now I've got to take the inverse sine of both sides because whenever you find the angle, you find the inverse or use the inverse. So it's the inverse sine of 0.4548365947, so on. All right. And then you get your answer. So angle C is equal to whatever this is. So on the TID4, you just go inverse sine. All right, and then you recall your answer back again so you don't have to type it in again. And you're going to get about 27.05 degrees. Okay, so 27.05 or zero point 0.1 degrees. And there's your angle. Remember, this is an angle. Okay, so it's very important that you use the calculator effectively here. And again, because I just showed you guys how to use the recall feature on the TID4. I think the TID4 is easier to use, so you don't have to keep on typing on these numbers. Unless you want to do copy paste on the computer, you can do that too. Okay. Now number 4 is it's a little bit different here. It's a side case. Notice a different set of information here. This is a side angle side case. All right, this is a side angle side condition, and then this right here is a side side condition because you're given all three sides and you don't know what the angles are. So I'm going to approach this one a little bit differently here. I'm going to pick one of the angles, like angle B right here. I'm going to find this one. And then I'm going to use the two sides of the included angle here to find the area. Oh, I don't need to find the area. So I'll take back what I just said. We're trying to find angle C only. I was jumping the gun here. So, I know that angle C is opposite of 15. So here we go. So I'm going to start off with 15. So I'm going to highlight that because you always start off with the side opposite of the angle. So 15 squared is going to be equal to the other two sides squared, the sum of the other two sides squared, minus 2 times their product, all right, times the cosine of the included angle, which happens to be C in this case. All right, so I'm just going to do the algebra first. So 15 squared, I'm going to subtract the 10 squared, subtract the 19 squared, and that's going to be equal to 2 times negative 2 times 10 times 19, all right, times the cosine of angle C. If you want to evaluate all these and you want to write this as, negative 380, okay, be my guess. So if, like I said, this is 225, this is 100, 19 squared is 361. You want to evaluate all of that, that's fine. And if negative 2 times 19 is negative 38 times 10 is negative 380. So if you want to evaluate these numbers here, be my guest. And then you divide both sides by negative 380, negative 380 here. Now on the calculator here, let's just do a couple of basic arithmetics here. So 222, or 225, excuse me, that's incorrect right there. 15 squared is 225. So on the calculator here, 225 minus 100, all right, minus 361. Okay, that's negative 236, and then I got to divide it by negative 380. So divided by negative 380 should give me a positive result, okay, because a negative divided by negative is a positive. So negative 0.62105, so positive 62105 is equal to the cosine of angle C, and whenever you're trying to find the angle, you got to use the inverse cosine. So the inverse cosine of this number here, which is 0.62105, all right, is equal to C, which is an angle. This is an angle now, okay? Uh, remember that. So I got to take the inverse cosine of it. So what I do is I go second cosine, gives me the inverse now. I recall my answer back as I did in the previous problems, and then I get an angle of 51.6 degrees. So angle C, angle symbol C, is 60, what was it? Excuse me, 51.6. So 51.6 degrees. There we go. So sometimes, depending on the information here, some problems are more difficult than others. So keep that in mind. All right. Now this one here, when it says solve the triangle, as you guys know from previous lessons, that means that you have to find all the information in the triangle, which means you got to find all three sides and all three angles. So solving the triangle means find all the parts, three sides and three angles. And here I don't know any angles, but I know all the sides. So I need to find the angles. And I'm going to always start with the largest angle first. So always start with um, the largest angle. And the largest angle is opposite of the longest side. So just writing this down. Always start with the largest angle. All right, opposite of the longest side. So opposite of longest side. Okay, so that happens to be, all right, angle C. So I'm going to start off with angle C. So I have 26 squared is equal to 11 squared plus 19 squared and minus 2 times the product. Okay, 2 times the product of 11 times 19 times the cosine of the angle that I'm finding, which happens to be angle C. Okay, so like on the previous problem here, I gotta do a little arithmetic here. So I'm going to subtract the 11 squared, subtract the 19 squared, and that's going to give me negative 2 times 11 times 19. I just like doing all the algebra first, then I just plug it in the calculator. And then I divide both sides by this number here, whatever it may be. Don't know what it is, but I got to divide both sides by it. And then I plug it in. Okay, and this, whatever it is, it's going to give me cosine of angle C. So let's type this in over here. Okay, so I'm going to take 26 squared and subtract 11 squared, subtract 19 squared, and you get an answer. That's the numerator. Okay, that's 194. And then I got to divide it by negative 2. Oops, I forgot parentheses here. You have to use parentheses around the denominator, so negative 2 times 11 times 19. One of the biggest mistakes on the TI-84 is that students do not use the correct symbols. Okay, and the numerator has to be in parentheses, and so does the denominator. Otherwise, you're not going to get this. Okay, so negative 0.46411. So negative 0.46411. Take the inverse cosine, so inverse cosine of this number here, negative 0.46411. That's going to give me the angle. So what I have to do is go second cosine this time and recall my answer back, and to get 117.7, if you round it to the nearest tenth right there, 117.7 degrees. So angle C is 117.7 degrees. There's my first answer. It's the obtuse angle. So you always start off with the largest angle. And if it's obtuse, find the obtuse angle first. And then switch to the law of sines. So once you know your angle, let me go put it in here so in red so you can see it. This little angle right here, this obtuse angle, 117.7 degrees. Now you can switch to law of sines if you want. You can use law of cosines again, but law of sines is easier. So I always say switch to law of sines. This is step 2, this is step 1. Okay, so in doing that, I'm going to take the sine of that angle, so the sine of 117.7 degrees to its opposite side, which is 26, and that's going to be equal to the sine of angle A now to its opposite side of 11. Okay, all right, and then you go ahead and cross multiply, like we always do in proportions. Okay, so what do we get? So we get 11 times the sine of 117.7 degrees. Let me see, is equal to 26 times this, so 26 times the sine of angle A divided by 26. Let's get an answer here. So clear it, let's enter it in, so 11 times. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have cleared it. Oh man. Let me get my answer back here. So the inverse cosine, don't clear it next time. So negative 0.4641. What was that? So that's roughly this right here. That was my previous result. This is more accurate now, okay, by the way. So I'm going to take 11 times the sine of that. So 11 times the sine of that number, okay, sine, and then recall your answer back. Okay, put in parentheses here. I got to divide it by 26. Okay. So, and then that right there, 0.37475, 0.37475 is going to be equal to the sine of angle A, and then you've got to take the inverse sine. Now I'm writing it out, but you got to use the calculator effectively here, and this is equal to the angle. So I take the inverse sine of that, so go second sine, all right, and you got to recall the answer, the previous one, right? Don't type it in, just recall it. And you get about 22 degrees roughly, so 22.089. So angle A is 22.0089 degrees, so roughly 22 degrees, roughly. And then the third angle, angle B, is found the easy way. A triangle, the three angles in a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. So you take 180 minus angle A and minus angle C. So minus angle A minus angle C. So 180 minus the 22 degrees, roughly. All right, minus 117. Whoops, got a little crazy right there. 0.7 degrees. All right, and you do the arithmetic right there, and angle B is going to be around 40.3 degrees. All right. So these are challenging problems because depending on the information, you're going to be using the law of cosines or the law of sines. And then you may use both. You may use the law of cosines first because you can't use the law of sines, and then you switch the law of sines. Unless, of course, you want to use the law of cosines all the time. But I think setting up a proportion is easier than law of cosines. But it's up to you. All right, last two. So these are area problems. We want to find the area. Okay. To get the area, we're going to be using the formula that we developed in the previous lessons here, and we need a side angle side condition where we have two sides and an occluded angle. Okay. So let's see, I have two angles, so I know that I can find the third angle if I want. Let me see. 6.4 is opposite of the angle 19 degrees. We do not have this side here. And it'd be kind of nice to know that side. So I can use law of sines if I want to figure that out. So I'm going to call this x temporarily. So I'm going to find that side and then use the area formula. So let me see. So sine of 76 degrees to x is going to be equal to sine of 19 degrees to the 6.4. I'm going to solve for x. Now, proportions are simple. You just cross multiply here and then divide by the third term, or you can step it out. But get the hang of this. It's 64 times the sine of 76 degrees divided by the third term, which is the sine of 19 degrees. And x is going to be equal to whatever this is. So let's type this in, or use Desmos, either one. So 64 times the sine of 76 degrees. Make sure you close it off before you divide, and then you divide by the sine of 19 degrees. Okay, and then that, no, that can't be right. What's going on here? What did I, oh, it's 6.4. Yeah, I was going to say this side here can't be that long. So watch this. This makes more sense. It's 6.4. I wrote down 64. Obviously, that can't be it. So you got to use a common sense here. Watch it. 6.4 times the sine of 76. So it pays to use your head sometimes. You got to think, are your answers reasonable? And that answer wasn't reasonable. And notice now I get a reasonable answer. Okay, I'm 19.074. So 19.074. So 19.074, and now I need angle E, the angle between these two sides. And that's easy. All right, the angle, I know the angle E is always 180 minus the two given angles, 19 and 76. Now, if you can't do that in your head, you just type it in, right? All right, so 180 minus the two other angles, so minus 19 minus the 76. All right, you get 85, so that's 85 degrees. And then at that point, you're ready to find the area because this angle here is 85 degrees, and now you have two sides in the included angle. So this is step 1, this is step 2, and this is step 3. So now the area is always 1/2 times the two sides, so 19.074 times the other side, 6.4, times the sine of the angle between them, which happens to be 85 degrees. And now you type this in. So 1/2 is 0.5 times 19.745. So I'm just going to recall the answer. All right, and then times 6.4. So times 6.4. See how the recall feature is so nice. And then times the sine of 85 degrees. And you get about 270, which something's wrong here. Oh. What happened here? 0.6, 1/2 times 19.74. I got to find my mistake here. Hang on. Okay. I found my mistake here. When I recalled the answer on the previous step, I recalled the wrong number. I recalled 85 in my calculation and not the number that I wanted. I wanted to recall 19.074 in my calculation, but I didn't do that. I recalled 85, and that's why my answer of 270 is off. So I just typed in the actual numbers right here. 1/2 is 0.5 times 19.074, which you see right here, times 6.4 times the sine of 85 degrees, and I get about 60.8 square meters. So 60, actually, yeah, 60.8 or 60 point, yeah, that's close enough. So 60.8, and this is in meters. Everything's in meters here, so square meters. All right, and there's my area. There we go. So you got to make sure that you do the right thing on the calculator. I wrote it out correctly, but I didn't type it in correctly. So be careful. That's one of the hardest things about trig is just entering the right values in. Okay, last problem here. We need an angle between the two sides. So I'm going to solve for angle R here first. I'm going to get this angle is opposite of side 12. And I'm going to use law of cosine. So 12 squared is equal to, all right, the other two sides squared, 12 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times those two sides, all right, times the cosine of the angle, which in this case is angle R. Okay, so if you let's just make square the number, so because we can do this in our head. So 144 equals 144 plus 16 minus, let me see, that's 48 times 2 is 96, so 96 times cosine of r. Subtract the 144 and then subtract the 16, you get negative 16 is equal to negative 96 times the cosine of angle r divided by negative 96, and you get this number here, so 1696. No need to simplify it because I'm going to take the inverse cosine. So the inverse cosine of my fraction here is going to be equal to angle r. So let's go ahead and type that puppy in. So take the inverse cosine of 16 divided by 96. All right, and I get an angle 80.4059 degrees. So 80.059 degrees equals angle R. And that looks correct. It looks close to a right angle here. Let's see if I just wrote it down. Oh, I didn't write it down correctly. 4.4059. 0.4059 degrees. So that's my first step here. Now I have the right information. So the area is equal to 1/2 times 12 times 4 times the sine of the included angle, which is what we just achieved. Okay, there's your angle. And so now the area would be 1/2 or 0.5 times 12 times 4 times the sine of the angle, which is right above it. So I'm going to recall that angle back, and I get about 23.7 square feet in this case. 23.7 square feet, because area is always in squared units. And that, my friends, is your homework. Yeah, this was the hardest one yet because it involves so much. So this homework involves everything that we studied in chapter 9. It involved the first area formula, secondly involved the law of sines, and then lastly, law of cosines. So this is an important homework. Make sure you do it right. All right, and use your video to your advantage. All right, and I'll see you in my next lesson. This is Ainsworth. See ya. Bye-bye.